See, the truth just is, you see. Being out in nature is something that we naturally gravitate toward. For example, I'm in the winter right now. It's very cold, and it's becoming even colder right now, despite everybody claiming global warming is going on. And, what's happening is, well, I still want to be outside. I still want to be exposed to the sun. Now, is it the fact that the sun is my zodiac planet or this and that? No, we all have this pull toward nature. And this is also described through many different ways. From looking at music, you'll see, 432 hertz. You'll look at the natural harmonies within birds and animals and everything combined to make certain sounds and create that bigger harmony. And then in addition, you have the foods, and what's most natural is going to be the most healing and has the least amount of contaminants, but also has the most amount of nutrition. And it's always living according to nature, to which that can be fulfilled. But I see it again and again, this common theme. And then you see natural law, and then you see things like natural medicine. It's not just, eating foods from nature, but using nature as medicine. It really just is, as is the truth. It just is. And all the time people want to say this is that and this is that, and my idea is the idea, and that's not what I'm trying to push for myself to you. Rather, the idea to begin with is to even think to begin with, the ability to even perceive to begin with, the ability to use nature as intended, as humans are to be intended to be humans. It's just that simple, is that we are living our nature with nature. And it has not anything to do with New Age. It has nothing to do, essentially, with things like essential oils or this and that, or supplements, for example. These things aren't necessary to fulfill this picture called nature. In fact, it could be even simpler. And if you were to describe the truth to someone, wouldn't you want to describe the truth in very simple, terms? I mean, for even George Washington said that to create a constitution, it should be in simple terms that people understand it. But even laws nowadays, people don't read that documents, and it's left up to the politicians. And even then, the very nature of government to begin with is something that isn't so great in alignment with nature when you look at things like natural law. But what is natural law? It's the law of attraction. But it's the innate laws. It's the laws that already exist. It's in fact the things you already know because they're practically existent, but you perhaps aren't perceiving it, so your level of alignment is not necessarily aligned. And Mark Passio puts this perfectly together, so I suggest checking that out. But, being outside, I feel that inspiration. Even in the cold, I feel that rush right to my blood, because I know that my body's smart, and it's going to rush blood in places where it needs the heat. For example, my body's smart, but so is the universe, and yet we want to rule over the universe. The very thing that we are often doing is being God. So what is it that we got to do? We can't be God. Right? And it is that simple, because people have the intention of ruling over others and manipulating them, and then others have the intention of being empathetic, being caring, loving, having the simple things. But it's not always like that, especially in a world full of materialism and physicality that we just attach ourselves to. It's become so apparent now. So apparent, in fact, that some don't see it at all. See, the great irony to nature, is what I like to refer it as, is yes, the greatest, most powerful nation of the world can do the most good, but it could also do the most harm. But this also applies for many other subjects. And, you can maybe relate principle, polarity, a whole bunch of things, I'm sure. But the truth is, in yin and yang, and, foods and different things, but it doesn't even come down to science or even math. I mean, for goodness sake, scientism is definitely not the answer. And so, nor is religion, because they often relate, and as you know, Scientology is sort of a religion, but then scientism is completely different. And a lot of these are actually the same, though, when taken to the roots. So again, that, too, is even just an ironic situation, perceiving it. And exactly, the perception is ironic. So looking at nature, you could say, oh, well, that's something that we can all relate to, and at the same time, something we can't. But that is the irony that is at work. But everyone can perceive things the same way. It's just how do they get there is the question, right? And that's always the question when it comes to healing, right? Is how do you get that body into alignment as intended? So you have all that to deal with. But always getting down to alignment, what does that mean? It's asking questions. It's asking questions to get there. Finding the root cause. What is the root cause? That is disease, right? Is finding the root cause. If you're going to prevent disease, even to treat it, it's going to be both, okay? I'm sorry. But finding the root cause is going to fix all the problems, for that's where the tree grows to begin with. You'll see a common theme within my writings is everything about nature, right? I could say nature in every single sentence, but I have no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with that, because again, it's universal, everybody can agree. And I have different writings to describe this methodology. Certain parts I even question myself, because, there's so many ways to perceive a simple word or phraseology, and there are certain ways that make more sense to some people than others. And there's always going to be dissent. There's always going to be a certain disalignment with that. But people can align. It's that potential, the potential for optimization. And that's exactly what I strive for, and what pushes me in my striving is that wantingness to see the potential. Let others see the potential. To open their minds for once, to actually be free. I've had massive deep dreams. That's something that's always been part of me, is just deep dreaming. But deep dreams about freeing people, right? And it's not just myself. This is not from personal experience or whatever. Okay, it isn't, again, my personal perception, looking at the truth objectively for what it is, because truth just is. Then what is it? Right? But then you still have to perceive it. So keep that in mind when you're asking your questions. Keep that in mind. And it will hurt far less to ask those questions rather than presuming answers like we've been doing for the past many years with government in existence, is presuming the answers when there's clearly many questions to be asked. And that's why they give you all the answers, is because they don't want you asking the questions. It's just that simple. So I may say it's just that simple, but you can tell I'm driven. And people even say, oh, well, you're passionate. What is exactly that is driving my passion? It's the fact that I see everybody being a slave. It's the fact that I see everybody in a state of mental dependence. But not just mental dependence. I mean, it's dependence of the heart, dependence of the gut, as you know, is the root of most disease. But then the digestion is the root of most evil. So they're both roots, and they're both connected, and they both work together. So what is it exactly? Looking at the bigger picture, right, beyond perception, is that you don't know the answers, and that you aren't God. So why are you trying to be God? Why are you trying to have the answer? When I say nature is the answer, I'm not saying I have the answer. Just because I own this operation, this title of a phrase, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a mission across all generations. And I wasn't alive every single generation. I mean, technically you could say I was because of my ancestors and genes or whatever. But it doesn't even matter, okay? Because it's a mission that's long been sustained. Now, whether one considers it a mission or not, obviously you can debate upon everything. Like I said, there can always be dissent. I get that. But looking at the situation objectively, I don't think the world is in a good condition. And if you're going to fix the world, you got to look at the bigger scheme of things. What is the world controlled by when it comes to the mass entity scheme of things? What are these mass entities? And do you feed that fire, even though you supposedly are against these entities? So are you taking actionable steps toward getting rid of these entities out of your life? So that includes taking action steps to eat healthier. In fact, that can help a lot of things. I do believe it helps a lot more than we think, because it's really internal. But with that in mind, there's a lot to fix. And it's not the environment, it's not climate change and all this other stuff. These are all distractions. Don't you see? Natural law is the master key, as Mark Passio put it. looking at the deeper root of things has nothing to do with the media. In fact, the media in existence doesn't even need to be in existence. Government, perceivably, does not need to be in existence. But not even perceivably. This is something we create ourselves, you see. So it's very nature. Think about the things in your life. Think about what exists, right? You exist. What is a living being? What does it have? Life, forms of life. Well, what's in food? We consider living foods what? We consider living foods real foods, raw foods, probiotic foods. Are you consuming those foods? Or is everything you're consuming cooked? Is everything you're consuming processed? Then right off the bat, it's not of nature, is it? Now, if you're saying it's cooked, it could still be of nature, that's fine. I get it. Okay, I get it. Different form, I get it. A little bit of agony in there, as they call fire in Ayurvedic medicine. But the truth is, just looking at nature, you can use some raw foods. But you have to experiment for yourself, you see. Maybe certain environments require certain things. I'm in the winter. What does that mean? I gotta eat more seasonal vegetables, more warmer foods, soups and stuff. Maybe I feel more prone to that already. As you know, hot cocoa is a common theme in the winter. See, don't be surprised when you start connecting these dots, when you do start asking those questions, because you will start connecting those dots naturally if you do seek to ask these questions. But the problem is, a lot of people don't seek to ask these questions to begin with. But once they do, they realize there's a big portal that opens up, a big rabbit hole that they've never seen, perhaps, or perhaps they've seen in the past, slightly. Only glimpses. Maybe some parts will come back to them. But then you wonder why people study this stuff for all their life, and people get stuck in things like the occult, for example, right? But again, it's not that you even have to study these things, rather just question the world around you, make some observations and make action points around them. The fact that you're eating processed foods literally right in front of you, and yet people do it unconsciously. Has to tell you something. The fact that people will take a drug just taking someone's word for it, without having any education for themselves, then they're not self-diagnosing. They're having someone diagnose for them. And if they can't diagnose their own problem, how are they going to know how to fix the problem? Just look at the roots to diagnosis, the word. Just look at the roots to health. It actually means health. Whole. And then look at the roots to doctor. It means teacher and physician and all these other stuff. All the words were there for a meaning as well. Everything's with a purpose. What is our generation creating now? Words that don't even really exist in their Latin meaning. And, it's great, it's fun, whatever. It's cool with that. I like my generation because they're more faster paced, I think. But with that, the great irony is that a lot of us are also very slow, lazy. And by lazy, not doing anything, not seeing much of the bigger picture. Far detached from nature is the very problem that it always has been, just in different ways, you see. So one may say, oh, well, we were at war with nature for the longest time, and I talked about this in my previous writings. We were at war with nature, and now we are trying to be nature. But exactly, once we gained our stranglehold, we believe we can reinvent, we can reprogram, re-edit. But look how that's working out for us. Just look how it's working out for us. Make some observations for once. Look how it's working. It's not working out very well for us. There's disease everywhere and stuff. And you can just keep hoping and praying every day that they're going to get some cancer cure, and you're going to put all this funding into it. And you can walk around the track for hours, even though it's not good for your body. And continue eating your processed food, even though that's what's giving you the cancer to begin with, and over the whole bunch of other things that we created as well that give you cancer. But again, are you going to look at nature? And nature provides a completely different scenario. Provides a scenario that you likely have never lived in because you're consumed by consumerism. You're consumed by your job, which is human created. You're consumed by your house, which is human created. You're consumed by media, which is human created. And it's fine that it's human created, but again, the roots always come down to nature. Yeah, everything's based on nature. But is it in nature? So it's based in nature, but is it in nature? Do you see the roots to which they came about to begin with? Otherwise, you may not know how exactly they're manipulating you. And that's the thing, is you don't know how they're manipulating you, so that's how they get away with it. It's by knowing what you don't know, taking the ability to do what you aren't doing. And then you think that they're better than you, and to some extent, or they have the ability to rule over you. It's absurd. It's nonsense. Okay? Please think over your logic when considering this topic, and I'm willing to open the discussion to everybody on it. But just know that the truth is, regardless of what I think, regardless of what you think, as I also said in my previous writings, but it's just the fact that it is. So listen for once instead of telling, right? Something in health coaching that I even need to tell myself to do more of every day is just to listen more. Sit back and listen for once. Is your doctor going to sit there for an hour listening to you? Letting you rant off your chest, taking everything off that you need to put off? Is there somebody in your life that you can rant to and release to? It could be nature, for example. I mean, it is the best physician, as said by the Western father of medicine himself. And it's not just old tradition, in fact, because the truth has been here for all of time. And people will agree with me, but they still have a premise in believing in the forces that do not align with the universe. And I get it, it's a process. It sometimes takes a matter of years, and it does. Everything is a matter of actionable steps, as I said, through multitudes of time. And yes, multiple seasons, as I'm freezing right now, and multiple different people, perceptions to get through barriers, if you will, because that's what it is, just to get to nature. And then once you're at nature, there's so much to see. I mean, heck, there's poetry, there's a whole bunch of things. It's not that you have to write poetry, but let's just say you'd have tons of material once you start looking at that picture. You might hear some wind, I'm sorry about that. But it just shows you the wrath of nature is stronger than we can ever imagine. I mean, just look at what can happen when we do disrupt nature. And that's how we get deaths. That's how we have problems, is having a disruption within nature. Having some sort of lack of harmony. Having some sort of imbalance or situation that perhaps doesn't have to happen. As human beings with higher consciousness or ability to have such, because of suppression and censorship and so forth nowadays, you can utilize that and say knowledge is power and use it righteously, or for wrong, but hopefully righteously, in the right direction as you want. Or you can just continue to be ignorant and just ignore everything that comes to you, every message that the universe sends, not just through your body, but through someone like me, because you're listening to it right now. That's what we're supposed to do on this planet, is help other human beings, help each other out, right? But when do family members, are family members as tight as they used to be? Or in America, you can probably use America as the perfect example of imbalance, I would say. But, look at neighbors. Neighbors don't talk. Not helpful either. Look at where most of the talking is happening in the first place, on devices, technologies that aren't natural. I mean, it just makes sense. It just makes sense when you see common sense. And common sense, frankly, helps make up this truth. To be honest. It really does help. That's something that isn't very existent nowadays. And I think a lot of people can agree, especially, you may say, okay, boomers think that. But again, are they taking actionable steps to promote said common sense? Are they actually seeking to use their senses to create common sense, or further manifest the common sense that they believe so heavily in? because it's so-called aligned with the truth. And that truth will speak for itself. And when I say that, it shows through example. It shows through, let's say, someone healing a disease, treating the root cause, and feeling better. A cancer gone, arthritis gone, diabetes gone. When they're gone, perhaps that's a sign of moving toward alignment. Just think of the messages that exist. And if you've gone your whole life without knowing of these messages or even questioning or thinking about them, yes, you are partly to blame, but it's not entirely your fault. Just understand that there has been long this conspiracy to do that to you. Whether you want to call it the New World Order or whatever you want to call it, it's a long-built system that, regardless of what it is anyways, it's not in alignment with truth. And this is clear. So regardless of what anybody thinks, the simple fact alone that it's not of nature, not of truth, has to have you of question of the current narrative, of the current government, of the current state of your body, of the current ailments that people have within society, violence and depression and all sorts of conditions rising, skyrocketing, infertility above all. That will probably end everything, wouldn't it? So think about it, before everybody merges with machines and practically becomes as one to get with nature. It's counterintuitive. Okay? I'm not saying we can't use technology. I'm using technology right now. Okay? But when humans understand their role, a lot of it does have to go back. But for the future. You can't change the past, but you can change the present, which then changes the future. Very clear on that. So having grievances and hesitations upon things, what is limiting you, again, would be considered a boundary. And that boundary is only going to prevent you from your success. Your success, whether it's coming down to battling that disease, finding the truth, or whatever it is that you want to achieve. But your achievement must be realistic, frankly. Your achievement must be based in nature, and then nature will want to work with you as long as you're taking steps that are of nature. So that's why the message is nature is the answer, because look around, there's so many natures to understand. The nature of a tree, the nature of a human being, the nature of a phone. What is it doing? Is it radiating from the phone to us and it's giving us cancer? What is it exactly that is happening within the nature of everything that exists? And then looking at nature as the greater scheme of things and, referring it maybe as Mother Nature, maybe it's not, but as nature that overlooks everything, as the truth, as the greater innate. However you want to refer it as, all the multiple meanings can apply. That's what I've long wanted to promote, which is why it's my message. So it goes much deeper than average perception. And that can be also said with a lot of my other works, but I think there's always different ways of delivering the truth, like I said. So you can be such example of delivering the truth, not just by showing that yes, you can heal your body, and you can have the help of other people as well, because it's necessary in this life, but that you can be that example and nature will respect your response. So whether you believe in heaven or hell doesn't matter, you're in alignment with the universe. Okay? And you will see what's bad, you will see what's good, innately immoral, So that's what I have to say for today. I want to keep it short because I know I can keep going on, just going to some random rants, especially when I'm outdoors. You get all ancestral, right? And wanting to just put it out there. But the truth is just that. Just that, right? It should speak for itself. Why should I have to speak for it is the question. And getting to there, yes, you may need a human's help, but, that's why a physician should treat through nature, and nature's still the one doing all the work, which is why a health coach is necessary and doctors aren't always that all necessary. So that's the greater truth at hand, is titles, schools, governments, all these things we've created for ourselves, are they really necessary? And are you necessary to exist? And then if so, because you are, how do you secure that existence? How do you fulfill the existence that is to which you became here after years? You should be acknowledgeable of the fact that you're even here existing. The fact that you are alive shows that your ancestors worked hard to get here, and through what conditions, yes, may lead to who you are now. But remember, change is always happening, and you can do your best, or you can just follow the rest. Your choice. But following the rest is definitely not doing your best. And you will feel it through your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit. But again, don't take it from me. Learn from what is given to you. The wrath of nature is upon us because of all we've done. So it's a warning sign. It's a warning sign to you, to your family, to everybody you know. It's the biggest mission on the face of this planet. It's the biggest work for us to do on the face of this planet. It's the biggest truth on the face of this planet that many people don't want to perceive because they're in their own doctrine. It is that I don't necessarily matter, the truth does, and through which then we can seek enlightenment, through which then can you seek healing and all that you truly desire at the end of the day. Thank you for listening, and feel the wrath of nature.